Okay, we're going to watch a video from Vice. And as anyone who has watched Vice knows, one of their favorite subjects is the drug cartels of New Mexico. They actually do incredible reporting. And it's I've gained a ton of respect for Vice and for their reporters, really because they seem to be one of the only media outlets out there that are telling important stories at this time. And what's going on just south of our border is a very important story there that really isn't being covered enough. But it's almost humorous at this point. They seem to come out a with a video once every 2 weeks. Although maybe it says more about the rest of the news media that they're not covering it at all. But let's watch.
Aquí tenemos una muy amiga y elemento de nosotros que nos ha tocado perder por el camino, pero igual no nos pesa y sabemos que en esto andamos y si morimos en esto, pues sabemos que lo hacemos por algo que vale la pena. Adelante, Central, a Central, ¿cómo fue el reporte, Central?
Confirmando 3 rápidas de guardia por ahí del crucero al terrero.
Crucero al terrero. Eso quiere decir que vamos a tener que suspender. Se tardan aquí para llegar como aproximadamente unos 10-15 minutos.
Ahí me acompaña comandante de 3 rápidas de guardia.
One thing that has been very interesting for me watching these videos, and I try and I'm sure I've missed many of them, but I try and watch as many as I can, is I'd say the professionalism of the cartels. These are very, very well run mega corporations, really, is what it comes down to. And I'm almost always pleasantly surprised by the people that they interview. And it could be like any corporation, they have spokespeople who are particularly good on the media. I'm sure the cartels know what they're doing, but they all seem highly, highly intelligent. And what always strikes me is how aware they are of the political situation. They know that it's essentially a partnership between them and the Mexican government, and the U.S. government is fairly complicit in it as well. And it just benefits everyone because everyone's making a lot of money.
Ya, por ahí confirmaditas del crucero al terrero.
Copiado, viejo, copiado, pilas ahí.
Comandante, K8, nos atacan, blindadas.
K8, K8. Una aguililla. K8, heridos. X13, K8. K8, K5 en aguililla, X13.
This audio is from an ambush by the Jalisco New Generation cartel that left 14 police officers dead in the Mexican state of Michoacan. The police massacre took place in El Aguaje, a town on a key drug smuggling route from the Pacific coast. It's also near the hometown of the Jalisco cartel's leader, a fugitive kingpin known as El Mencho.
Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, is the single criminal organization most responsible for these deaths on both sides of the border.
The Jalisco New Generation.
So I started to see more and more mentions of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. For a very long time, the Sinaloa, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was the seemingly the most powerful cartel. They had taken over from the cartel before them, and I believe they had partnered with. There was one cartel that was essentially made up of like ex special forces or spec ops commandos from the military that had essentially defected and become drug dealers and enforcers. And I think the Sinaloa either I think they had partnered with them, and that's how they rose to power. I remember reading about this, I'd say, earlier on in the 2010s. Al Chapo led the Sinaloa. They're still very powerful. I've spoken to a couple of people who came from Mexico and who had like relatives there, and I've seen this more and more, and it's almost the Robin Hood type situation where the gangs are better for the people than the government. I think at the end of the day, a lot of the time, it's just survival, and the people that join because they don't have other options. They don't have better options. But I mean, there's plenty of businesses that go on in the U.S. Think of someone working for Purdue Pharma, providing for their family. And I'm sure Purdue was a great company for many people. They weren't doing they're no better than the Sinaloa cartel.
To the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
Tonight, the DEA is offering...
Holy crap. That I had not heard of. Gonna have to look into that after this video.
$10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho.
El Mencho sent his forces to take over El Aguaje, but Michoacan's local gangs joined forces to take it back. We visited El Aguaje 1 year after the police ambush and found a ghost town.
De un año para acá, fíjese cómo El Aguaje se convirtió en un pueblo fantasma. Las casas, pues ya no son las mismas, todas están balaceadas. Antes aquí es donde estaban los Jaliscos. Esto era la barricada de ellos, todo esto. ¿Ah?
This is Juan Carlos. He's from here. Do you know the family that used to live here?
Le puedo decir el dueño de esta casa. Lo armaron a la fuerza. Oiga, pero pues nosotros no somos de problemas. Aquí nos vale madre. Van a pelear por el patrón. Entonces, llegan las camionetas. Incluso llegó un monstruo de ellos. Se estacionó frente. Abren la puerta y se meten. Sacan toda la familia y la hincan aquí.
How many people were fighting here?
Aquí ellos tenían, quizás, no lo sé, pero quizás aquí tenían unos 20 pistoleros.
That's hundreds of rounds, probably thousands of rounds of ammo.
Pues, a lo mejor 2 aquí, 2 allá, pero tienen que estar rolando, ¿verdad?
Juan Carlos isn't just a friendly, concerned citizen. That's not even his real name, and he's not wearing that mask because of COVID. Juan Carlos is a member of the United Cartels, a group fighting El Mencho.
I mean, it's if we're being honest with ourselves, it seems fairly clear. It's basically a civil war that's going on in Mexico. If you look at some of the wars we've had in the Middle East, some of the civil wars we've had in the Middle East recently, like with ISIS in Syria, a lot of it's fighting over the economic resources. Here, the drug trade is, I don't know, it's tens of billions. It's probably hundreds of billions. All fed by America, but wow, I don't know. It's incredible. It's very sad. It's really just sad.
The United Cartels claim to be an autodefensive, a bunch of farmers who have formed a militia to protect their villages.
I don't know if this is the same thing. I remember seeing a documentary on Netflix a few years back about a group of citizens that had joined together, armed themselves, and were fighting back against the cartels. This might be the same thing or something similar.
But these guys have makeshift tanks known as monsters. And they strap explosives to drones to use as bombs. They don't exactly seem like the good guys. but Juan Carlos says the government is still on their side. ¿Dónde está el gobierno y los militares? ¿Por qué ellos no ayudan con esta guerra?
Sí, sí, sí ayudan. Sí ayudan. Como han agarrado muchos Jaliscos aquí también. Pero no es suficiente, la verdad.
Do you think the families who lived here will ever be able to come back?
Sí, sí, claro que sí. E incluso ojalá vean el video para decirles que se vengan, que nos ayuden a hacer del aguaje el pueblo mágico que era antes. Y si los Jaliscos también ven este video, pues que se vayan, que ya no hagan tanto daño, ¿verdad? Que vean cómo nos dejaron, qué familias se llevaron, que las regresen, que regresen al Señor de esta casa. La verdad, la familia todavía lo está buscando.
Seems genuine. You never know. Honestly, I think many of the actors like people involved in the cartel, at least the ones I see from the Vice videos, they don't seem intrinsically evil. I see very few that really even seem to have a real bloodlust. I'm sure there are plenty that are. It's more just this is their life. It's the same feeling it's the same feeling I get watching documentaries, interviews with people in Afghanistan in particular, where just civil war is all they've ever known for 40 years.
The war in Michoacan dates back to the early 2000s. Dozens of cartel leaders have been killed or captured since then. The cartels splinter and form new groups, and those groups fight each other. But the Jalisco cartel's invasion made the smaller groups join forces. Turf wars like this are playing out across Mexico, causing record murders. The Jalisco cartel has been blamed for fueling that violence, and the United Cartels claim Michoacan is better off under their control. And that brings us to this guy, Padre Goyo. He's a priest who got involved in the cartel war back in 2013, when the first towns formed auto defenses to protect themselves. When he took sides in the cartel war, he started wearing a bulletproof vest out in public, and he's still risking his life by talking openly about the government and the cartels.
Ayer estaba desorganizada, hoy la delincuencia está bien organizada. Han involucrado hasta el muy clero, ¿eh? El muy clero tiene que guardar silencio. Me han suspendido para...
Just to pause this for a second. I'm not going to pull it up, but it looks like this was on May 1st of 2015. The Jalisco cartel actually shot down a helicopter with an RPG, with a rocket-propelled grenade. Pretty incredible. Let's see the helicopter attack. I gotta see this. Wow. They fired 6 missiles, hit it twice. It's a fairly big-sized helicopter. Anyway, let's go back to the video.
Que no hablara, porque era incómodo ante el gobernador, que es el padrino principal de los Viagras.
Is it really true that the Carteles Unidos are not the lesser of two evils in this situation?
Aquí no hay cártel bueno. Hoy Cárteles Unidos se ha quedado porque cuenta con el apoyo del ejército, cuenta con el apoyo de la Guardia Nacional. No estoy diciendo que el otro era bueno, no, ninguno. El gobierno no puede apoyar a un delincuente. Que vaya y limpie, saque a los...
I imagine it really seems to be out of hand. Obviously, there's massive corruption, and the government's in bed with the cartels. But I think also partially due to incompetence, partially due to just the sheer power of these cartels. I'm not sure the government is capable of beating them. So I imagine they've decided we're just going to side with some of them.
Dos.
There's some evidence to back up Padre Goyo's claims about corruption. This cartel boss released a video saying he'd taken money from Michoacan's governor. a claim the governor has denied.
Hace 20 días, más o menos, me mandaste ofrecer 10 millones de pesos para que te garantizara yo la tranquilidad del Estado.
Padre Goya.
I've seen this in a number of videos and interviews where the cartel members are, and here you had a cartel leader, boss. They're very clear and plain spoken about the corruption and graft that goes on.
Goya says the cartels are crippling the economy in Michoacan. Most of the limes and avocados consumed in the U.S. come from this part of Mexico, but the cartels extort farmers, making them pay taxes to get their crops to market. Abandoned factories and warehouses are everywhere.
Hoy,
That's really the problem. If they were just producing drugs, even with the violence that goes on within the drug industry, and of course the violence with the government and related to the U.S., you could say it's understandable. It's certainly inevitable. But if they're extorting the local people who are minding their own business and just trying to earn a living and survive, makes the situation a lot worse.
se ha ido mucha gente que producía, se ha ido. Esta tierra caliente era un emporio económico, no hay una sola.
When did you start seeing families displaced by the violence here in Apatzingán?
En enero, comenzando el año, comenzaron los primeros desplazados, señalados. Tú, se van. ¿Por qué? Porque tal vez tenían parientes con el otro cártel, ¿no? Así fue como comenzaron a sacar señaladamente con nombre y apellido familias. El aguaje tiene 5,000 personas. Hoy puede encontrarse 50. Unos están en Uruapan, otros se fueron a la frontera. Han emigrado con el afán de pedir asilo político.
It's crazy. It's approaching 50,000 homicides a year, close to a civil war, and you can't say these people aren't refugees. They deserve to be helped.
This is a woman we'll call Rita. She and her kids had to flee their home in El Aguaje. She's afraid of what would happen if we showed her face or used her name.
What was it like there before the violence?
Pues era un pueblito muy tranquilo, muy bonito. De hecho, vivíamos muy a gusto.
Was there always violence? Was that part of living where you were?
Pues siempre ha habido. Siempre nos tocaba ver gente armada, pero no ya al llegarse a agarrar a balazo. Y como estaban diciendo que se estaban llevando a los hombres a pelear. El papá de mis niños.
I need to read more about that. How many of the people that are join the cartel as fighters do so willingly, or because they don't have any opportunity? How many are really just drafted in? Makes the situation even more terrible.
Hace 9 meses lo golpearon, lo dejaron por muerto. Pues allí era de que te armas o te matan.
What was the hardest thing to leave?
Mi casa, mis cosas. Pues ya ve que uno trabaja en el limón. Se hace como de una estufita, de su cama, de pues cositas. De hecho, pues hasta toda la ropa de los niños, todo.
Where's the...
It's crazy. Honestly, stuff that goes on in the U.S. is
government and all
really
this, so they help.
Really not much better, especially in inner cities. And the government and our society really doesn't give a shit about it. But I mean, this is a whole nother level, and it's going on just south of our border. Really, a meaningless line separates them from us.
Helping you.
No sabemos sus motivos de que por qué no quieran poner un alto. Hay mucho niño de por medio, pero no, ellos no han querido tomar cartas en el asunto.
Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, campaigned on a promise to de-escalate the drug war. My producer, Miguel Fernandez, asked him about Michoacán.
Claro que ha crecido delincuencia y sobre todo lo más lamentable, los homicidios, porque ya está quedando de manifiesto otro error de permitir el contubernio, la asociación delictuosa entre autoridades y delincuencia. ¿O no está quedando eso de manifiesto?
En Michoacán usted dice
general,
que existe esta colusión.
En general, si no está bien pintada la raya, la frontera entre autoridad y delincuencia.
I've seen this fairly consistently as well. There was another video they did. They interviewed, I think it was the Secretary of the Interior, and she was talking about it. It's like they're all, so it's hard to know what's going on. Are they all corrupt? And they talk about it like everyone is corrupt, and I'm not, even though they are, or is it so bad and so endemic in the government that they might be good people and they might be speaking out about it, but they're powerless. It's hard to say. I mean, there's no reason to trust them.
No se avanza y cuesta mucho más trabajo resolver el problema de la violencia.
Padre Goyo says the government isn't helping displaced people like Rita. He's taking care of them by himself, helping them get food and shelter and diapers for their babies. He took us to a homeless shelter he runs.
Nosotros tenemos solo este albergue, pero entonces como por la cuestión de la pandemia fuimos buscando casas en distintas colonias. Aquí está La Palmira y hay una serie de 10 familias, 10 personas, perdón. La Zaragoza, en la colonia Zaragoza, siempre Aguaje.
He says at least 525 families have been displaced from El Aguaje.
When do you think all of these displaced people are going to be able to go back to their homes? Are they ever going to be able to go home?
Pienso yo que pronto. Veo las cosas pronto. Estamos pidiendo una cosa solo, que la Guardia Nacional ponga un destacamento en el Aguaje. No digo por qué estar el Aguaje con delincuentes, que la autoridad sea la delincuencia, eso no puede ser. Ni el Aguaje ni ningún lugar.
So it's interesting to think about these solutions. I suppose if they had a strong enough, well-funded, well-run military, and funding is important because you need to be able to pay the soldiers so they stay loyal. You know, the real solution is to attack the root of the problem, create economic opportunities, proper education. We need to have better relations with Mexico. There's no reason. That's terrible. Anyway, but from just a military standpoint, would having if they had a essentially a police state, at least until the cartels are wiped out, taken under control, would it work? Now the military seems just too weak, too corrupt, too incompetent. But could that path work if it was done properly? I don't know.
Even with help from the military, making El Aguaje livable again won't be easy. This is the Jalisco cartel commander in the area, fighting from his armored truck. This is the first time that anyone this high up in the Jalisco cartel has given an on-camera interview. He showed up to our meeting in the same armored truck.
First of all, it sounds like give me 1 second. Okay, we'll take the light off for a minute. It sounds like Sounds like they had a machine gun. They get a lot of their weapons just from the U.S. I imagine they can easily convert the AR type guns. That was a 50 cal. That looked just like a Barrett. It was semi-automatic at most. Very good for anti-personnel. It was it was really interesting. Their tactics seemed to be pretty on point. He was telling him to comb the ground, which if you're shooting into the brush and assuming that your enemy is taking cover, is really what you should be doing. But I've never actually seen a video where someone points it out. I don't know. I would like to imagine intelligent military people
driving in that
do that, but it was these guys seem to be pretty smart.
Can you please introduce yourself, however you want to be identified?
Simplemente soy un comandante aquí en la región de Michoacán, comandante aquí del Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación. Estamos apoyando y estamos en la lucha por liberar los pueblos de nosotros. Somos gente de aquí de las áreas y nos interesa pues, seguir haciendo lo que estamos haciendo y terminar con lo que estamos haciendo.
On the other side of this conflict, the people you're fighting, there's, as we've been told, a group of united cartels who say that they're fighting against you because you're extorting people, you're robbing people. What do you say to what they told us?
En realidad todos los enemigos de nosotros nos conocen y saben que nosotros, a mí no puede haber alguien que diga secuestramos, robamos o extorsionamos. Nosotros no nos dedicamos a eso. Nosotros nos dedicamos, somos narcotraficantes. Nosotros producimos, exportamos y vendemos droga. Eso es
you can't tell who's the good guys. This guy's obviously very well spoken. He has a good presence. I don't know if he had a lot of military experience or. I'm trying to mandate CG. Oh wow, CJNG. Yeah, they have freaking uniforms. CJNG is Jalisco Cartel. In Spanish, it's the acronym. Guy doesn't seem like an idiot, but he's that's I suppose that's the real fight. If you're simply just producing, selling, exporting drugs, you're not a bad person, and then you have not a bad cartel, and you have your competition. You can really be helping the local economy. It's when it comes to the extortion, the kidnapping, the unjustified murder. So that's the PR battle. Who knows what's actually
lo que el papá de nosotros hace el dinero. Esa es la empresa de nosotros, ¿verdad? No dependemos en absoluto de una extorsión, de un secuestro, de un cobro de piso, nada de eso.
How do you feel about the people who are civilians who live in these areas we're fighting, who've been displaced? We've met some of them. They've had hard lives who've been affected by this battle.
Esa es la parte más triste de esta historia. La gente de aquí que no entiende por qué estamos peleando, no entiende por qué traemos una arma, no entiende por qué andamos de esta manera. Son los que más, se puede decir, sufren. ¿Por qué? Porque se tienen que ir por ser pariente, por ser amigo. Yo sé quién es el patrón, señor Don Mencho, una persona muy honorable y las personas que lo conocen saben la calidad de persona que es. Ellos no son gente, nosotros somos gente que vamos a actuar en contra de una persona civil, de una persona inocente. Eso está en contra de los órdenes que traemos y en contra de los mismos principios que yo tengo. Si yo no pensara de la forma que yo pienso, yo no perteneciera o no fuera parte de este cartel.
It's been said that Señor Mencho is fighting this fight here because it's where he was born and wants to come back to his land. Is that true?
Usted sabe, usted tiene su rancho, todo nos duele una cosa, pero más cuando se trata de nuestros pueblos. No podemos ignorar o dejar de quedarnos en la comodidad de un lugar donde tenemos estable y dejar de pelear lugares donde se van a destruir por lo que nosotros ya sabemos.
15 years ago, the government under President Calderon.
So he's saying, this is his home, this is what place he cares about more than anything, and it's he's coming in to essentially save it. El Mencho is coming to save it, and that's why he has to take it over.
Launched a war against narco, and that's basically how we got to where we are today. Where do you see Mexico and the state of Michoacan 15 years in the future from now?
Espero que Michoacán en 15 años se encuentre liberado de todo esto.
I've noticed more and more they have grenade launchers. I imagine they're getting it from the U.S. because I've seen more and more Second Amendment activists, gun nuts, carrying them. I suppose they're not illegal because it's just a 40 millimeter anything launcher. It doesn't have to be. It's not lethal. It can be for a flare. I'm guessing. I have no idea actually. I don't know if they. I imagine getting grenades is hard. Although they can probably get them from the Mexican military or steal it.
Esto, yo quisiera en 15 años poder venir y no tener que portar una arma y poder venir con mi familia. Tengo 4 hijos que no los tengo aquí, ¿verdad? En 15 años quisiera poder venir con ellos y andar por estos lugares sin necesidad de traer gente armada conmigo ni yo portar un arma tampoco. Y sabemos que en esto andamos y si morimos en esto, pues sabemos que lo hacemos por algo que vale la pena. La guerra, usted sabe que son puras batallas, la guerra nunca se acaba.
I think he's got a scar, the weapon. It's a pretty nice gun. What a raptor. Very well spoken. It's really hard to tell who the good guys are. So we'll stop there for now. I think it's a great service that Vice is doing, just making people aware of these issues. I really doubt the vast majority of the country knows what's going on. Their government doesn't seem to be competent, probably doesn't really care. The last 5 years of Bush, I imagine, made things much, much worse. It's really a shit show. I'm gonna keep on learning about it. Legalization is the decriminalization, at least, is the most, seems to be the most common sense solution. I don't know.